Hey, good morning and welcome to SportsBeat Live, coming at you from sunny Kansas City. This is the weekly Kansas City Star show where we talk about the Royals with the reporters who know them best, and we talk about the Royals with you as well. So send us your questions and comments about the Royals. We will get to as many of them as we can. Let's say hello to our esteemed friends. Lynn Worthy, beat writer, covers the Royals for the Star, and columnist Vahe Gregorian in the house. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning, Blair. Either you had a little hiccup in the delivery, or it was really hard to say esteemed.
I'll work on that. I'll see if I can get better. I'll practice. Look, it is. It's never not a busy time for sports in Kansas City. Usually, we always have plenty to talk about, and we got a lot of Royals we're going to get to. But I'd be remiss if I didn't start the show today by at least bringing up for our live audience the news that occurred within the hour involving the Kansas City Chiefs releasing tackles Eric Fisher and Mitchell Schwartz. Bit of a bombshell for the Chiefs. So Vahe, of course, covers the Chiefs on a regular basis. Lynn Worthy came to the Kansas City Star to cover the Chiefs back in 2018 and covered that AFC title game Chiefs team. So bit of big news that the Chiefs are going to save $18 million in cap space. Still have a little more work to do to get to the number they need, but I can assure you we will spend plenty of time talking about Chiefs free agency, what they're going to do at tackle on SportsBeat KC podcast, perhaps even as early as tomorrow. But we are here to talk about the Royals and big news that they make at spring training, and it's kind of moments like this is where I want to get started.
Next offering is swung on, hit high in the air, deep to left. That's a way back, and that's a Bobby Witt home run. Well, he is a very impressive young man. Just 20 years of age, but every single time you watch him play, he plays with heart and hustle, intelligence, and great skill as well. And he absolutely crushed that ball to left center field.
That was Steve Physiok on the call for the Royals. And Vahe, were you at that game?
I was at that game, and what was funny, Blair, was, and Lynn also, was that Lynn has seen this up close and personal too. But the day before, 2 days before, I had looked down to type something, and I heard the crack of the bat, one of those balls you just know was out, and it was Bobby Witt going to a little bit to right center. This ball, what was fascinating to me on multiple levels was that he was past second base by the time that ball landed. So testament both to how far it went and how he comes out of the box, and a little bit of a microcosm of what makes him so exciting. But Lynn, I know you had some one-on-one time across a concourse in masks with Bobby Witt Jr. not long ago, when you have a real sense of him, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, going back to when he was drafted and got to meet him right after that, and then have talked to him a couple of times since then, and obviously he was with the team last year. He wasn't in big league camp, but he was around last year, I think, early, and then he was at the summer camp, and obviously back in big league camp this year for officially in big league camp. And there's no doubt that he's a talented kid, and he's also just a kid who he loves the game. I mean, like I think he's maybe one of the few high school kids, because the first time I met him, he was still in high school. They were still trying to win a state championship, who I remember going on about how baseball was meant to be 9 innings, and like how he just like 7 wasn't enough for him. And I mean, it was just really pure and like innocent, just like his talking about his love for baseball. And then I remember his father, who obviously, spent, I want to say it was 16 years in the majors, Bobby Witt Sr. And he was, and he never pushed baseball on him, but he was talking about how as a kid, he would just want to keep spending more time outside, taking more grounders and having him just keep, throwing. And I remember Senior saying that he's like, that was when he sort of got the idea that this kid was a little bit different because he just wanted to keep going and keep going and keep going. And he would spend all night out there if he let him. So yeah, and you still see that as a kid who's 20, you see a lot of that in him still. But he can play some ball. I know folks want to make a jump that I'm not sure that I'm ready to make yet, but that's the type of talk show fodder that we are here for. So let's go.
Well, you're absolutely right. So Lynn, you and I talked about Bobby Witt a couple of weeks ago after you had some one-on-one time with him in Surprise. And that was before a home run, the home run that we just saw that traveled nearly 500 feet, and the other highlight reel play that he's turned in, playing second base, the dive into the hole, and just flashing the glove on that play. So he's delivered a couple of just wow moments in the time that you and I talked about the dilemma that the Royals might have in bringing him up. Let's review that quickly. Why would the Royals not just go ahead and give him a big league uniform and play him on opening day?
Well, to me, the first thing is if you're bringing him up to the big leagues, you bring him up because he's going to play every day. You don't bring him up just to be on the team, because that's not, like if he's not going to play, then you send him to the minors where you can play every day and get at bats and get time. So the condition is you're going to bring him up and he's going to play. And the Royals have always said with their young guys, especially top guys like that, your idea is he comes up, he plays, and he stays. So the question is he ready to do that yet? And I guess for me, the idea is like, okay, well, have we seen enough to make that judgment? Like, whoever whether it's fans or Twitter or whoever else, talk shows that are saying, okay, well, we've seen him make these plays. You've seen these highlights. Like, okay, well, but I could go back to even last spring training and point to numbers for, a guy like if I tell you last year, a former #1 draft pick who was hitting 380, had 5 or 6 home runs in 15 spring training games and looked like he was unstoppable at the plate. Are you telling me that Bubba Starling was supposed to be an all-star last year? Because that was spring training and that was what he did. And that was, and we've talked about his talent. That's not anything against Bubba. But I'm just saying that for some reason, we're looking at spring training way different for him, maybe because of, the background and the prospect status and everything else, than when we see other guys have great spring trainings and we don't automatically say they need to be everyday stars.
Can I jump in with one point on this? It's kind of interesting. Lynn's 100% right about that. The thing that strikes me a little different is the way his teammates talk about him, unbidden, out of the blue. Hunter Dozier the other day is talking about the lineup, and he just adds in Bobby Witt and talks about what a freak he is. Brady Singer refers to the kid, the kid having 15 tools in the toolkit. There's just something different about, I think, the persona, the presence, the maturity with him that I think resonates a little differently than he's having a good spring. Now, I don't know. We could see him get brought up and maybe that gets exposed, but I don't think so. And I think the dilemma for the Royals is, everything from service time, but also to the question of what's the difference between moving somebody along who's ready versus being hasty. And there is a difference. And it's a little hard to divine.
Well, and so what you point out, I think, and that's where I have the hesitation, is just that clearly, whether it's teammates, whether it's evaluators on the player development side, or coaches on the player development side, people in the front office, they see something different. They all see something different, and so that's where that's that pause that I have where I say, I'm not sure if I'm ready to make that jump. But there is a case to be made that you could make that jump. I mean, that's the other side of that. Now, the other part that I would say is like, what do you lose by not making that jump yet? Like, if you say, okay, well, we bring him up when we know for sure, like we've seen enough, and maybe we brought him up a month. I mean, and it seems weird to say this, but okay, we brought him up a month too late. What's too late? I mean, if you brought him up in, like say he was tearing the cover off the ball and he was just an unstoppable force, and you brought him up in July, does that mean that you guys, or whoever made the decision, just screwed up because he should have been up in April, and that wasted what? I mean, I don't know what you lose because he played every day and he proved it, and because he got that experience, and maybe in the minors he had a bad week and he had to come back from that, and he did come back from that, and maybe he figured out how to do that there as opposed to trying to do it in the major leagues when all of us are watching him and everybody's expecting him to be the next Moustakas, Hosmer, whoever you want to say. So I guess that's the other thing is like he might be ready for that jump, but I don't know if there's an urgency to do that right now and to say he's going to come up, play, and stay.
The other difference is Patrick Mahomes didn't tweet about anybody else, but he did tweet about Bobby Witt Jr. So, Jason Paddock asks
a funny thing.
Go ahead, Vahe, and we'll get to Jason's questions.
No, just I mean, minor league season doesn't start till May, right? May or so. So I think it's kind of interesting. You can tell that there's like, what do we do with him in April? No matter what, right? Whether he's ready or not. Like, Anyway, sorry, Blair.
No, so Jason asks, would Bobby Witt Jr. be a worse roster holder than Nicky Lopez? Lopez has hit 200 the past 2 years. We know about the Lopez bat, and that's why he's at the bottom of the order. You certainly do. At least there's the promise of lengthening the batting order with Bobby Witt at second base, hitting wherever he hits in the lineup, but getting Lopez out of the lineup. Do you see that, Lynn?
Well, in theory, yeah, but at the same time, the problem. Well, I guess again, so like if you're saying, okay, we're gonna call, you're gonna make that decision out of camp that he's your starting everyday second baseman. I think there's some other things you got to think about, and I know for fans it's real easy. Just it's like fantasy baseball. It's like it's not real people you're dealing with, so it doesn't matter what happens with Nicky Lopez. But I think especially after an offseason, and even like as recently as the early February, where the talk was how Nicky's going to fit into this lineup and how some of the additions that they made are going to make it easier for Nicky to sort of become the player that he should be. Another homegrown kid who you've put your faith in, who you made a big deal out of bringing him up when you brought him up in 2019, who still has just about a full big league season's worth of games now because he came up in the middle of 19 and then had a shortened season, to just sort of basically toss him out, which is sort of the organization wouldn't look at it that way, but I mean the way fans who want to make this move are sort of like looking at it, just toss him out and plug Bobby Witt in. I think there's potential ramifications, whether that's a message that you send to the clubhouse, whether that's just like going back on sort of the way things have sort of been framed for Nicky at this point. And then also you're counting on that what you've the highlights and what you've seen in spring training and exhibition games is the exact production that you're going to get from Bobby Witt as soon as he comes up, which, I mean, that's not anything that you can really pencil in for a guy when he just comes to the big leagues, especially a guy who the last organized minor league games he's played at were in the Arizona League, the rookie league. So I don't know that you make that decision out of camp to just, you're going to be a starting everyday second baseman and Nicky Lopez is out.
So no guaranteed 480-foot home runs every at bat. Is that what you're telling me? Because that's not what I want to hear.
I'll leave that to Vahe to. He was there for it, so he saw it.
All right. Hey, so listen, we have spent a lot of time talking about Bobby Witt Jr. Let's hear Bobby Witt Jr. talking about himself here. Beth, let's roll it.
Biggest thing for me is just try to go out there and have fun through it all, really, but also try to learn as much as possible. Just being around the big league guys, as well as the summer camp last year, just knowing how they do things, how they go about the business, because this is my ultimate goal, to be a big leaguer, and they're already there. So I just try to watch them, ask them questions, and do that. And I've been pretty much doing that throughout the whole camp, and I felt a lot more comfortable with just all the positions that I'm playing now, and just at the plate and just being around the coaches and then just them teaching me and helping me. And I just really felt like pretty much back playing the game that I've always played, and nothing really sped up too much really. And now I feel really comfortable, and I feel like this is where I'm kind of supposed to be right now. I'm just trying to just get better each and every day. So whatever the people out there think that I should be doing, I'm just going to try to keep doing me and just trusting my plan and trusting all the coaches and all the players that I'm playing with, and just try to be like the best teammate, best player that I can possibly be each day. And so I'm not really just trying to, I'm setting goals obviously for myself and for where I want to be and everything, because I think everyone needs to have their goals to where they want to get to. But I'm just going out there and trying to play each day and just go out there and be me.
Have you hit the milestones that you set for yourself? Like, are you happy with where you're at?
Oh yeah, definitely. But there's always got to keep working each and every day. And I just got to keep doing my job and just try to get better each and every day, and just go out there and like I kind of been saying, just play my game and have fun.
Have teammates?
I'm Karen Kornacki from Channel 9. Sorry for the creepy dark video. We do pay our
Okay. Sorry to cut you off, Karen. But Bobby Witt sounds the part and looks the part with the eye black, doesn't he? That's look. He said what? Yeah, old school. He said what he's going to say later on. He said something about he wants to present the Royals with a pleasant dilemma, and that refers to what we're talking about with play his butt off in the Cactus League and force the Royals to make a decision, not just on him but on others, right? Because it would affect others as well. All right, there's something else. Another player I want to get to that Lynn, you wrote about recently, and we've discussed him before as well. But now that you've gotten some eyeballs on Hanser Alberto, he's intriguing to me, and this is a guy who really under the radar signing for the Royals that I think has a chance to be a kind of a special contributor in a way that Whit Merrifield has been for the Royals over the years. Not as we may not see 500 to 600 at bats for Alberto, but he is definitely a player who who put up some good numbers, and I think it can possibly bring a lot to this Royals team. Certainly adds to the depth of the Royals, does he not?
Oh yeah. I mean, we're talking in Hanser Alberto. You're talking about a guy who was a starter, an everyday player in Baltimore, and who hit about 300, who really hit lefties. In the last couple of years, it was close to, I want to say it's like 394 is what he hit against lefties in the last 2 years. Guy who puts the ball in play, doesn't strike out a lot. I think when I went back and looked since I want to say it was 2018, 2019, or 2019, 2020, I forget which one, but his Fangraphs WAR rating was top 15 among second basemen. He's right up there with the guy like Jerks and Profar who got real money this offseason from the Padres. But and he's not. The difference is obviously he's not a home run hitter. He's a contact guy. He's the type of guy that the Royals sort of like. One of these guys who's not just a launch angle type guy, but put the ball in play type guy. But he can play multiple positions, and I think as much as we sort of don't want to bring it up, or maybe you hope it doesn't happen, but you look at the track record, a guy like Mondesi and all the injuries every year that there's been a full season, there's been an injury, and that means you're going to move some people around on the infield or somebody's going to plug in. And if you're taking Bobby Witt out of the equation, folks, for a minute, it's deep breath, and you're working with the other guys that you have. That means, that means Nicky Lopez is going to be playing, shortstop in that case. Then you have an everyday second baseman that you're plugging in. If something happens and, you're moving, Hunter Dozier off third base again and he's playing somewhere else, or he needs break at third, or he's playing more first, Hanser Alberto has started games at third base and has hit well. So he's a guy who, if he's if he's depth off the bench, he can factor in a lot of ways. And if something happens, he plugs in, and you feel like you still have a lineup that isn't taking a big hit in multiple ways.
Let's hear from Hanser Alberto.
We haven't really talked to you since you joined the Royals, so I was wondering what was this offseason like for you? Were you surprised by how things turned out with Baltimore? And then was the Royals what ended up making that a good fit for you?
Yes. This offseason was slow and weird. And I'm not gonna lie, it surprised me a little bit. Because the last 2 years, I've been playing really good, and I didn't find a MLB deal. I got a lot of teams calling and offering me minor league and a lot of stuff like that. But here in this organization, I think it is a good fit for me here. A lot of young talents. We got veterans, but they're still young, and I think it will be a good fit for me, and just bring my energy here. Energy. Do what I know to do, and see what happens. I feel pretty comfortable here right now.
How would you describe sort of your approach at the plate? I mean, I think the last couple of years, you've been one of the tops as far as hitting against left-handers, but also making contact, not striking out. What is sort of your approach generally?
I think all the work that I put in the past, the thing that I learned when I was in Texas with all those veteran guys, and because I never get to play, so I was watching them how to work, how to do stuff, how to handle stuff, and I just have all that information in mind, and now I put it together. So when you get the opportunity to play, and it don't matter when you go off for 3 or for 4, and you're gonna be in the lineup the next day, so that kind of get you relaxed, more comfortable. And I think that's what I bring to the plate. I feel pretty comfortable, see the ball really good. And, I think I make a lot of adjustments, and that's why I've been so successful on lefty and, putting the ball in play.
So, yeah, Lynn, you're right. Of course you're right, because you wrote this. Is 781 plate appearances the last 2 years, not only the 394 average against lefties, but 80 Ks, just 80 Ks, and seems to fit in with the theme of the Royals in the offseason of, acquiring guys who, may be a little bit better on base percentage, a little bit more offensive minded guys. And I'm really looking forward to seeing Hanser Alberto play. I just think he's a terrific acquisition for the Royals. So, Vahe, I wanted to ask you. You just spent several days at Surprise, and one of the you spent some time with Jarrod Dyson, who absolutely a fan favorite in his time here, and left to I think with 4 other teams since leaving the Royals. They brought him back. Lynn and I talked a little bit about Dyson last week. You got some FaceTime with him, and just what were your impressions of Jarrod and how he felt about being back in the Royals uniform?
Well, actually, truth in advertising, just to clarify, my FaceTime with him was from 30,000 feet on a Zoom call while flying in. But luckily, I got connected, and Lynn sent me the 2 minutes I missed trying to connect, so I was good. And the Royals were good enough to answer questions that I typed in to the chat. So this is journalism 2021. But a lot of what I wanted to write about was kind of from a historical standpoint, the sense of knowing what part of the Royals DNA and the part of the Royals history he has been, and how that might fit into this. It's not just a kind of novelty act that the Royals are trying to get some of the band back together here, right? It's toward a purpose, and I think they're trying to fuse together not just young and old, but people who sort of understand the Royals way, what it took to get there last time. And he's always been kind of an energizer, sometimes with his play, sometimes with what he has to say. And I think when you think about all the elements of recent Royals history that he's been attached to, everything from the way they won in the minors, to having been a 50th round draft pick, to struggling a little bit when they first came up, that whole wave of players, to losing the Game 7 in 2014, to what that meant in 2015, and even being, at Yordano Ventura's funeral. I mean, he's really part of the last, most of the last 15 years of the Royals, or at least the most memorable parts of the last 15 years, in terms of what they've achieved under Dayton Moore. So I think, I know Lynn drilled into this a little bit. I think that he's got more to give. I think he's a fit for what they might need as a spot starter and fourth outfielder, maybe fifth outfielder, I guess. I'm not exactly sure how that will look, but I think he'll have a meaningful, maybe subtle in some ways, but meaningful place here.
Yeah, you mentioned him going to Yordano's funeral. This was after he was gone from the Royals. Isn't that right? He attended the funeral not as a member of the Royals. Yeah. So
about 2 weeks later. It was only a couple of weeks later. I mentioned that just because it I think demonstrated what a part of it he still remained even after leaving the franchise.
Okay, hey, let's switch gears again, and I wanted to ask Lynn about a really interesting story that was posted today on kansascity.com, and that has to do with technology. And a couple of Royals players are happy to see technology returning to the clubhouse. Lynn, take us through this story, and why are a couple of Royals hitters pretty gleeful about this development?
Yeah, so last season in 2020, the shortened season, players didn't have access to video of the game that was going on during the game. So, like, if you had an at-bat previously, you had an at-bat against, whoever, Shane Bieber, and you go up there and you walk away shaking your head like, what the heck did he just hit me with? And you would go in and look at some video and get a better idea. Where was this pitch? What, are you doing something wrong with your swing? Was the pitch they called outside, they called a strike actually outside, or was it on the corner? You can look at these things in between at bats using video. Last year, that practice stopped, and partially that was because of the whole sign stealing thing that they had to go on with the Astros. They were using that sort of in-game video to decipher signs, relay them, and the whole scandal that sort of was the talk of baseball before the pandemic last year. Funny enough, as I sort of led with the story, was Whit Merrifield was very outspoken about his disdain for the Astros and the sign stealing scandal. And I said, well, that's just one more reason for him to, hold a grudge against them, because he was one of the guys who really valued looking at video during the game. So it's just one more thing. Not only did they, steal the signs, which he called worse than steroids, now they kept everybody from being able to watch video, which he thought was a big deal. And he talked about how big it was to be able to make adjustments for both hitter and pitcher in between innings, and them taking that away. And another guy who said that was huge was Jorge Soler, who hit 48 home runs, who set a franchise record, who was, the American League home run champion in 2019. He's another guy who said it was huge to be able to go in, and especially when, he DH'd most of his games in that 2019 season. He's not out in the field, so he can look at these things and really get a sense of what's going on with his swing, what's going on with his bats. And, you put everything as a DH into those 3 or 4 at bats a game. You want to be able to really break it down. So the fact that they will be able to do that again this year is, at least for those guys, is a big thing. The one thing that Mike Matheny sort of didn't see it quite as, black and white, because he also mentioned just the idea that guys, he likes the idea of guys having those conversations in the dugout. This is what the guy looks like. This is, how the pitcher's throwing, just having that dialogue between hitters and getting that sort of team scout report together. He hopes that doesn't go away. But, at the same time, he's like, these guys have had success, so there's no arguing with the fact that this has worked for them.
Absolutely. And we will link to that story in the podcast version of this show. Okay, guys, I had a lot more topics I wanted to get to, but I really, really enjoyed our conversation today, and we'll add them to the list of topics for next week. So I will say goodbye to Lynn Worthy and Vahe Gregorian, and thank Beth Welsh for producing today's show. And we'll be back next week on SportsBeat Live, talking Royals.